Before we go any further, I want you to understand what is truly on the line here. Arsenal are sitting as league leaders with 2 games to go. The Opta predictor currently gives Arsenal an 86.5% chance of winning the Premier League title compared to just 13.5% for Manchester City. That is a dominant probability, but it is not 100%. And that gap, that 13.5%, is exactly where all the tension lives right now. Every training update, every injury concern, every team selection decision carries enormous weight. Nothing is cosmetic this week, everything connects. If you want this level of detailed, fact-based analysis on every Arsenal story that matters, hit that subscribe button right now. This channel breaks things down properly, without the noise, without the speculation, just the full picture. Now let us go through everything that is happening piece by piece. Riccardo Calafiori returns to full training now. Arsenal reported earlier today, and this is a significant piece of news, that Riccardo Calafiori was in full first-team training for Arsenal today. Let me pause on that for a moment because this matters enormously. Calafiori returning to full first-team training ahead of the Burnley fixture. And with the final day decider against Crystal Palace approaching is a real boost for this squad. His return gives Mikel Arteta more defensive options at a time when the backline depth is being tested. The timing could not be more welcome. Going into a Champions League final against Paris Saint-Germain, having Calafiori available and match sharp is the kind of thing that shifts your squad depth in a meaningful way. This is confirmed training news, not a rumour, not speculation. Calafiori is back on the grass with the first team. That is a fact, and it is a positive one. Saka, Saliba and Odegaard in individual work. Now, here is where things get a little more delicate. Arsenal Radar reported that Bukayo Saka, William Saliba and Martin Odegaard were not involved in the main training session today. Instead, they were understood to have been doing individual work. Read that carefully. Individual work, not injured, not ruled out. Individual work, which in football terms often means load management, a structured rest from the full session while still maintaining physical conditioning. The situation is being played down internally and the club has described it as routine, given the match is still 4 days away. Now, my reading of this is straightforward. With a game still 4 days out, at the time of this report, it is completely standard practice for senior players, especially those carrying heavy minutes this season, to be managed carefully in training. Saka has been one of the most used players in the squad all season. Saliba is the foundation of Arsenal's defensive structure. Odegaard, their captain, has recently returned from injury. Managing these players in training this week is not a red flag. It is sensible, professional squad management. Arteta knows what he is doing. The club knows what it is doing. Do not let this particular headline create panic because the context makes it understandable. Arteta on the VAR call against West Ham. Mikel Arteta was asked about the VAR decision from the West Ham match. His response was blunt and confident. He said, and I am reading this exactly as stated, I haven't seen any of that. I'm sorry. I think it's very clear. I don't think anybody that has football knowledge would question about the decision, and I'm glad they took the right one. Now that is a manager who is not in the mood for controversy. Arteta shut down that conversation immediately. He backed the decision entirely. He made it clear he believed it was the correct call and he moved on. What I find interesting here is the tone. This is not a manager who is distracted by noise. He is focused. He addressed the question and moved forward. In a week this important, that kind of mental discipline from the head coach filters down through the entire dressing room. Arsenal cannot afford distraction right now, and Arteta is making sure there is none. Arteta describes the Man City defeat as a reset moment. This is one of the most psychologically interesting things Arteta has said in a long time. He was asked about using the defeat to Manchester City as a reset moment. And he said, well, it was a reset moment. The performance certainly was there. And I think we deserved much more than when we got out of the game. But we used that as fuel to be even more convinced and to understand, OK, what we've done up to now is fine. Let's learn every bit of it. And now let's use it for the last 5 games. That's what has remained. And we have every chance to go and do it. Let me analyse what Arteta is doing here. He is not dismissing the defeat. He is not pretending it did not hurt. He is acknowledging it fully, and then he is reframing it as a source of motivation rather than a wound. That is elite-level management psychology. The message he is sending to his players is precise. We performed well enough to deserve more. We did not get what we deserved. That creates a sense of unfinished business rather than defeat. It channels the emotion of that loss into something productive. For a squad in the final stretch of a title race and a Champions League campaign, that kind of mental framing is as important as any tactical preparation. Arteta on playing players out of position in defence. Arteta was also asked whether he would consider taking a risk by playing someone out of position in defence. His answer was measured but revealing. He said, "I don't know if the word is risk. At the end, we have to make a decision because the circumstances require that. With Miles playing out of position, it was a bit different. It was a choice because of what we saw and what we believed that he could do and what the team needed." This is a manager who refuses to frame his own decisions as gambles. When Arteta plays Miles Lewis-Skelly out of position, in his mind, that is not a risk. That is an informed decision based on what he has seen in training and what he believes the team needs. That distinction is important. It tells us Arteta is not reactive, he is proactive. He thinks ahead, he plans and he backs his own judgment. The reference to flexibility in defence also hints that Arteta is considering multiple tactical configurations heading into these final games. He said clearly he wants to remain flexible because games can vary and players can pick up injuries. That is a manager preparing for every scenario. Premier League Player of the Season nominees. Fabrizio Romano shared the official Premier League Player of the Season nominees for the 2025 to 2026 season. The 8 nominees are Bruno Fernandes, Gabriel, Morgan Gibbs-White, Erling Haaland, David Raya, Declan Rice, Antoine Semenyo and Igor Thiago. Now let me look at this from an Arsenal perspective. Arsenal have 3 nominees on that list: Gabriel, David Raya and Declan Rice. 3 nominees from one club in a Player of the Season shortlist of 8 players is a remarkable statement about the collective quality Arsenal have produced this season. Gabriel has been a defensive colossus all season. David Raya has redefined what a modern Arsenal goalkeeper looks like: commanding, composed and technically exceptional. And Declan Rice has become one of the best central midfielders in European football. The fact that all 3 are Arsenal players tells you everything about why this team is in the position they are in right now. Opta gives Arsenal 86.5% title probability. Opta Joe published the current title probability with 2 games remaining. Arsenal stand at 86.5%. Manchester City are at 13.5%. In the fan poll attached to the same post, 74.6% of voters believe Arsenal will win the title, compared to 25.4% for Manchester City. The evidence is overwhelming in favour of Arsenal from a statistical standpoint. 86.5% is an enormous probability. But the analysis here is about what that number means in terms of pressure. When you are the heavy favourite, the psychological weight is different. You are no longer chasing. You are being chased, and that requires a completely different mentality from the squad. The good news is, based on everything we are seeing from Arteta and his players this week, that mentality appears to be firmly in place. Guardiola gives Crystal Palace an animated team talk. This one caught a lot of attention, and rightly so. After Manchester City's 3-0 victory over Crystal Palace, Pep Guardiola was seen delivering an animated pep talk to Crystal Palace players at full time. Arsenal News reported the full context clearly. Crystal Palace are set to host league leaders Arsenal on the final day of the season, while Manchester City, 2 points behind, will face Aston Villa at the Etihad. Sky Sports commentator Jamie Redknapp noticed Guardiola's behaviour immediately, joking about what he might have been saying to each Palace player individually. Redknapp imagined Guardiola saying things like, "Jefferson Lerma, listen, in midfield, you've got to make sure you get close to Declan Rice. Ilakwa, you've been brilliant this season. Keep going. Adam Wharton, you can show that Arsenal midfield." Now, whether that is exactly what Guardiola said is obviously a piece of humour from Redknapp, but the behaviour itself is real and worth noting. Guardiola understands the situation completely. He knows that Crystal Palace hosting Arsenal on the final day is Manchester City's best chance of anything unexpected happening. He is not leaving any stone unturned. That is the mark of a competitor. However, the reality for the club is that Arsenal have already factored in that Crystal Palace will be motivated opponents regardless. The more relevant piece of information, which I will come to shortly, is that Crystal Palace have a UEFA Conference League final just days after that match. That changes the equation significantly. Arsenal contact Atletico Madrid over Julian Alvarez. This is transfer news, and I want to be clear with you about the status here. This is a rumour. Fan Arsenal team reported, citing football transfers, that Arsenal have made direct contact over a potential summer move for Atletico Madrid forward Julian Alvarez. The Argentina international is understood to be open to a fresh challenge this summer, although Paris Saint-Germain remains strong competition. Let me be precise. This is a reported rumour from a fan account citing a transfer news outlet. It has not been confirmed by Arsenal or Atletico Madrid. What the information tells us is that Arsenal are reportedly exploring a striker option this summer, and Alvarez's name has come up in connection with the club. Paris Saint-Germain are also reportedly in the mix, which makes this a complicated situation. Do not treat this as a done deal or even a likely deal at this stage. It is a story worth watching, but it requires further confirmation before drawing firm conclusions. Arsenal showing strong interest in Mateus Fernandes. Transfer News Live reported, citing TimeSport, that Arsenal are showing strong interest in West Ham midfielder Mateus Fernandes as they prepare for a major midfield rebuild this summer. The Portuguese midfielder is admired internally at the Emirates and is now firmly on the club's radar ahead of the transfer window. Again, I want to be clear with you, this is a rumour. It has not been confirmed by Arsenal or West Ham. What the information suggests is that Arsenal's recruitment team is already working on their summer plans, specifically in midfield. The phrase major midfield rebuild is interesting and suggests there could be meaningful changes to the squad's engine room this summer. Fernandes at West Ham has clearly impressed enough to attract attention from a club of Arsenal's stature. But until there is direct confirmation from either club, this remains speculation worth monitoring rather than reporting as fact. Diego Simeone backs Arsenal to win the Champions League Final. This is a significant endorsement, and it comes from one of the most respected tactical minds in European football. Atletico Madrid manager Diego Simeone was asked about the upcoming UEFA Champions League Final between Arsenal and Paris Saint-Germain. His verdict was direct. He said, "I expect Arsenal to be crowned champions. At this moment, I don't see anything stopping them. They are a very complete team, strong defensively, dynamic in midfield and dangerous in attack. Paris Saint-Germain are a very good side with plenty of quality, but I don't think they will be able to cope with Arsenal's overall balance and intensity on the night." Let me give you my analysis of what Simeone is saying here. He is not simply being diplomatic. Simeone is describing Arsenal through the lens of a manager who has spent his career building defensively organised, high-intensity teams. When he says Arsenal are strong defensively, dynamic in midfield and dangerous in attack, he is essentially saying Arsenal tick every box he values in a football team. The phrase overall balance and intensity is key. Simeone is not just complimenting individual talent, he is recognising the collective system that Arteta has built. That kind of praise from that particular source carries real analytical weight. Arne Slot backs Arsenal for the Premier League title. Liverpool manager Arne Slot also backed Arsenal to win the Premier League this season. Arsenal Radar reported his full quote. Slot said, "The team that is going to win the league, at least I assume, I think Arsenal is going to win the league. Arsenal is a team that has large spells in a game where they have to defend in a low block, and they do that really well, by the way. That's also one of the reasons why they're going to win the league." Slot is making a very specific tactical point here. He is not saying Arsenal are the most exciting team. He is saying they are the most complete team. A team that can defend deep for long periods and stay organised under pressure is a team that earns points in the hardest moments of a season. That ability to absorb pressure and remain disciplined is exactly what separates title-winning teams from the rest. Slot knows what it takes to compete at the top of the Premier League. His assessment here carries genuine analytical credibility. Arteta on Mosquera at right-back. Arteta was also asked specifically about the possibility of using Mosquera at right-back. His answer was deliberately non-committal but tactically revealing. He said, "There are different options in relation to the opponents as well as the things I want to do. Not only one, but 2 or 3 options, because games can vary, players can pick up an injury. I don't know, I want to be flexible on that." This confirms that Arteta has a contingency plan in place for the right-back position. He is not locked into one solution. He has multiple options and he wants to retain flexibility depending on what happens in training and in the matches themselves. That is a manager who is completely prepared for the unexpected. In a run-in this tight, that kind of tactical flexibility is a genuine competitive advantage. Jamie Carragher praises Max Dowman. Arsenal News Hub reported that Jamie Carragher has heaped praise on young Arsenal prospect Max Dowman. Carragher said, "This isn't disrespect to Rio Ngumoha, because he's a huge talent too, but Max Dowman just looks different right now." He added, "Some youngsters look talented. Dowman looks inevitable." And perhaps most powerfully, Carragher said, "A lot of kids can dribble, but Dowman plays with purpose. Every touch looks like he's trying to hurt the opposition." Now, that is extraordinary praise from a pundit of Carragher's standing and experience. The word inevitable is not one that gets used lightly. It suggests a player whose quality is so clear that his rise feels like a certainty rather than a possibility. The fact that this excitement around Dowman is described as continuing to grow rapidly tells you something important about the pipeline at Arsenal. The first team is chasing silverware, and behind them, a new generation is emerging. That depth of talent at both senior and academy level is what sustainable success looks like. Bukayo Saka on Arteta and Arsenal. Arsenal Radar shared a series of quotes from Bukayo Saka that deserve careful attention, because they reveal a great deal about the relationship between the player and the club right now. On Mikel Arteta, Saka said, "He has amazing ideas, a top coach. If you spoke to him, you'd buy into his ideas. He's that convincing. He connects with me as a person. He understands me well, my family as well. I feel that connection." When asked if it was always going to be Arsenal for him, Saka simply replied, "Easily." That one word says everything, easily. Not "I hope so," or "that was always my preference." Easily. There is no ambiguity in that answer. Saka is an Arsenal supporter who became an Arsenal player and has never wanted to be anywhere else. That kind of deep, genuine loyalty is rare in modern football, and it means something to the people who support this club. On his debut, Saka recalled, "It was freezing cold. We were playing away and it was minus something degrees. I was itching to get on, praying the manager would give me an opportunity. Obviously, if the team was winning, then he would feel more free to bring the young players on, and that's what happened. I came on and I just felt so free, just enjoying it." That image of a young Bukayo Saka standing on the touchline in the freezing cold, praying for his chance, and then feeling completely free when he got it, is one of the most human and powerful descriptions of what football means to a young player. It connects the superstar we see today with the kid who just wanted to play. On the painful near miss of the 2022 to 2023 title race against Manchester City, Saka said, "Initially it hurts. You have to bounce back. The biggest things don't come easy. You've got to work for them, fight for them. When it's your time, it's your time." And on what winning more trophies would mean after his FA Cup and 2 Community Shields, he said simply, "That's the dream. It would mean everything." The emotion in those words, combined with where Arsenal sit right now in the Premier League table and in the Champions League, makes this one of the most compelling moments in recent Arsenal history. Saka has been through the heartbreak. He has felt the pain of coming so close, and now with 2 games left and a final on the horizon, he is standing at the edge of something remarkable. The Crystal Palace bonus claim debunked. Now, let me turn to the first article. And this one is important because it addresses a piece of misinformation that was spreading quickly and causing unnecessary anxiety among supporters. The situation is this: a claim was circulating on social media suggesting that Crystal Palace stood to earn as much as £10 million in bonus payments should Arsenal win the Premier League title at Selhurst Park on the final day. It spread quickly, as these stories do, with many fans taking it at face value. Football London have now confirmed that no such clause exists in the deal that took Eberechi Eze to Arsenal last summer. Let me be precise about the facts here. Eze joined Arsenal in a deal worth £67.5 million in August 2025. £7.5 million of that figure was made up of add-ons. Those add-ons are performance-related and easily obtainable, but crucially, none of them have anything to do with Arsenal winning the Premier League title. There is no clause. There is no bonus payment to Crystal Palace for stopping Arsenal's title party. The rumour was false. The reality for the club is that this kind of misinformation can create unnecessary tension and distraction at exactly the wrong moment. The fact that it has now been officially debunked is genuinely helpful. Arsenal supporters can go into the final day fixture without that particular concern sitting in the back of their minds. There is one more detail here that matters. Crystal Palace have the UEFA Conference League Final against Rayo Vallecano just days after their Premier League fixture against Arsenal. Oliver Glasner has already hinted at significant rotation for the Palace squad. With no financial incentive to derail Arsenal's title challenge and with a major European final just around the corner, the idea that Crystal Palace will be fielding a full-strength, maximally motivated squad against Arsenal becomes much harder to sustain. The evidence, taken in full, points toward a Crystal Palace side that will be managing its players carefully ahead of that Conference League final. Eze and Odegaard must start together now to the tactical debate that is generating the most discussion among Arsenal supporters right now. The argument being made is that Eberechi Eze and Martin Odegaard must find a way to start together, and the statistical foundation for that argument is striking. Eze is the best through passer in the Premier League this season. Odegaard is second. Arsenal have the top 2 through passers in the entire league, and both of them play for the same club. Only Ryan Cherki and Bruno Fernandes come close to that upper echelon of through ball creativity. The analytical question is not whether both players are good enough to play together. That much is obvious. The question is how you structure the team to accommodate both of them without losing the balance that has made Arsenal so hard to beat this season. One solution is keeping Eze at the number 10 position, where he has been thriving and providing a consistent goal threat alongside Victor Gyökeres. In this scenario, Odegaard drops into a deeper number 8 role, something similar to the Bernardo Silva role at Manchester City, where he can drop between the lines, get more touches and provide the kind of control and creativity that makes a team almost impossible to stop. The concern about moving Eze to the left is valid. He has shown he can dictate from a wider position, but his most dangerous work has come through the central channels in the pockets directly behind the striker. Shifting him wide removes that threat. And with Leandro Trossard in the form he is in, leaving him out is difficult to justify. There is also the cautious reality of Arteta's decision-making. This is not a manager who experiments wildly in high-stakes moments. The Champions League final against Paris Saint-Germain is not the place to try an untested tactical configuration for the first time. The Monday home game against Burnley, however, presents exactly the right opportunity. It is the kind of fixture where the defensive foundation of Declan Rice, William Saliba and Gabriel provides enough security to try something new in the attacking third. The evidence on the pitch and in the data supports the argument strongly. Whether Arteta decides to act on it is the question only he can answer. That is the full picture of where Arsenal stand on May 14th, 2026. Calafiori back in full training, senior players managed carefully but not ruled out. A manager completely in control of his message and his squad. A statistical title probability that points firmly in Arsenal's direction. Transfer ambitions being laid for the summer. Young talent emerging from the academy. And a squad that from top to bottom is connected to this club in a way that goes beyond contracts and wages. Bukayo Saka said it best. When it's your time, it's your time. This might just be Arsenal's time. I am Melissa. This has been Melissa, Arsenal Analyst. If this breakdown gave you value, please subscribe, share this video and leave your thoughts in the comments below. I will see you in the next one.